Hello, my name is Katie McPherson. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships for Bark Technologies. We are based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We are an artificial intelligence app that protects students both at home and on school online. Today's presentation is going to be about internet safety and other tips and strategies for parents, caregivers, allies, community members, stakeholders, and teachers to consider when talking to students about internet safety. We welcome all parents, caregivers, and allies to this presentation. In front of you, you'll see a QR code that is basically our Bark ecosystem. So each week we put out one email that will allow you to be part of what we call our ecosystem. A lot of what we see with digital parenting and teaching students in the digital age is a lot of overwhelm. So our goal is to move you from overwhelmed to empowered. So if you hover over this QR code, you'll be invited into our ecosystem, and each week, once or twice a month total, we will send emails about the latest and greatest things, tips and strategies, ways that we can help protect our students online. One of the best resources that I can give you is the movie Childhood 2.0. You can find this movie on YouTube, as well as a dedicated website, childhood2, the number 2, movie.com. I highly, highly encourage you to watch this film. It is the most relevant and current insight into what students are dealing with. What I love the most about this film is that there are students in the film ranging in age from 8 to 18 talking about this is what it's like to be a student in the digital age. Many parents and caregivers feel like maybe they know what's going on with students, but this film will definitely showcase that we all need to really take a keen look at what's going on. So I'd like to play the trailer for you, and then we'll come back.
A long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas, I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat,
and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite.
I can just scroll for hours on end.
11 hours a day.
It's been 8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden, most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Pretty much every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about it.
But it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around to school all the time.
At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started.
There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
Don't be shy.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
I'm a little nervous.
It's the first time.
Do you think your parents know that this happens?
No.
My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
So as I said, you can find that on YouTube at Childhood 2.0 or on its dedicated website, childhood2movie.com. So I assume you're here to learn more about internet safety, social media impact, video game impact, etc. Parenting and growing up today looks very different from any other time in the history of humankind. These devices have definitely allowed us to see a lot of great things and a lot of not so great things. And so here at Bark, this is just an example of what a potential issue would look like on a child's account. You can be sitting 2 feet away. You could be sitting in another room. Your child can be at school. You can be at home. And potential issues will be sent to your phone by Bark if you subscribe to our download of our app. So this is just an example of what that looks like so that we can make sure that our kids are safe. A typical American child will have 2,000 photos of themselves taken before age 2. And so a lot of times I hear from parents that they're concerned about the addiction of their children, but I'd like to call out that our children have a digital footprint before age 2. And then it grows from there until age 15, 16, 17, when they start saying, please don't take any more photos of us. So it's not just kids that have to look at their use. We as adults have to balance our use as well. I'm going to be just reading some stats to you. 68% of tweens, and 82% of teens expressed or experienced violent subject matter or thoughts. And these are from our Bark 2023 annual report. Mental health, obviously, we know that we have issues going on both with children and adults around mental health. We know that in school and out of school, as well as online, we have students that have experienced bullying, quite a lot of them, 67% of tweens, 76% of tweens. That's quite a large number there. Drugs and alcohol, we know that students are exposed to drugs and alcohol online. They're also using platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok to be able to communicate about buying and selling those as well. In the state of Utah, I know that you have a very strong suicide prevention coordinator and programming going on. Unfortunately, we are still seeing attempts and completion as well as ideation across the country. Sexual content, I think a lot of parents and faculty members are surprised by the number of children that have been exposed to nudity. The average age of exposure to pornography is age 8. The average trading of nude photos is age 11. And so we know that we have some work to do in protecting our kids from all things explicit. 8% of tweens and 10% of teens have encountered predatory behavior from someone online. And going back to the mental health piece, we know that we've seen anxiety as well as depression use language online about that as well. We did see during the pandemic a triple jump in disordered eating, especially among our young female students. And so that's definitely something we want to be looking at. Instagram was actually sort of blamed for being the worst app for disordered eating because of its content that has so many photos attached to it. So what you need to know, what do we do? Conversations, modeling, and tools are so important. Nothing can replace open and honest conversations with your kid. We know that if exposure to pornography is age 8 and exposure to nude photos is 11, that we need to start having those conversations very young. We need to make sure that those conversations are ongoing, they're open, honest, and transparent. We joke around here at Bark that some parents have not my kid syndrome. I've heard that in other industries as well. Sort of get your head out of the sand. My kid would never. Good kids sometimes make poor choices. And we know that to be true based on our own childhood where we maybe didn't make some great choices as well. So really modeling appropriate tech behavior for yourself, freaking out quietly. So if your child comes to you, having conversations about it, but not shaming or condemning or crucifying them, and giving yourself some grace as well. We know that kids can be sitting next to each other. They can be watching, where is my friend right now? He's at the ice cream store. Nobody invited me. We call that FOMO, fear of missing out. And the algorithms of the industry really want us to believe that everything is perfect. We have filters versus real life. So a lot of these platforms, especially the major 4, really allow students to think that everyone is perfect. And so really having conversations around that, social media is sort of an illusion. What you see in front of you is not always 100% true. I think it's so important for kids to understand that, and these photos outline what I'm talking about with that as well. Happiness is an unfollow away. We really encourage students, especially tweens and teens, to really understand algorithms, understand what kind of photos are out there. This is an awful example of what's out there under disordered eating. And so if children are looking for, like, how do I do this? There are plenty of examples in teaching them how to have an eating disorder. So when people ask me, when should I give a phone? When should I give social media? I usually point to things like this, like when you're ready for your child to see some pretty terrible content, because it's everywhere. Additionally, a lot of people ask about suicidal ideation. How are kids finding out how to do this? There are pages and pages and pages and forums where they can get on and see awful things, and also be part of communities where kids are really struggling. And so knowing what your child has access to is so, so important. I've mentioned sexting and sending nudes. Our company is in the state of Georgia, so sexting falls under the state's child pornography laws. In general, a teen who creates, distributes, or possesses it could be charged with a misdemeanor or felony. And so that is pretty standard in most states. So knowing the laws, if someone sends your child a sexually explicit photo, don't share it with anyone, delete it immediately, has real legal ramifications, and most students are not aware. A lot of people ask me about slang and emojis and what those look like. You could spend hours and hours researching this, memorizing all of them, but I would really encourage you to not try to keep up with it, because next week it will change. But being aware of what some of these mean is really important. So kids are very savvy. We used to be that way as well. Passwords are doorways. And so would you give your kid a single set of keys to their very own apartment? Probably not. And so we don't want to give passwords to kids that we are not aware of, so that we can get into the account as well. I liken it to leaving your front door open. Obviously, you wouldn't do that, but handing over a phone with untethered access to the internet is pretty much like doing that. And so being really aware of what you're giving and what you're giving access to is super important as well. Screen time, there's good screen time and not so great screen time. Really be aware of what your child or your students are consuming. I also would say, what are they creating? What is the sort of competition they're after, perhaps? There are a lot of great things that kids are doing online. I want them to hear positive messaging around social media and internet use, but I also want them to be safe. And so really, for parents, understanding, what does my child have access to? What are they creating? What are they curating? Really having, a real keen insight into what your child is creating. Obviously, we want quality over quantity. So at BARC, we have screen time controls, screen time restrictions, really trying to balance what I call digital vegetables versus digital candy. A lot of parents will ask me, when should I give my child a phone? And I also liken that to a Ferrari or a Honda. We have basically given kids a Ferrari with no driver's ed, when we should be handing over a Honda. So we do have a BARC phone. There are many other phones on the market too, but we really feel like BARC has the safest phone. It is an Android. It has a ton of great features on it, and I would highly encourage any parent to check it out as well. Additionally, just some things to think about. Having a screen time contract is really encouraged. We don't want kids and parents fighting over a device. The last place I want you to be with your child is fighting over a device. So really making sure that you sit down with your child, really put those golden guardrails in place. We know kids are going to bump up against those golden guardrails. We want to make sure we have appropriate boundaries in place. We want to make sure they're getting good sleep, good hygiene, good grades, good behavior at home, good behavior at school. Often I hear from parents that they're fighting over a device with their child. I'd really ask you to consider that technology is a privilege, not a right. If your child's grades are tanking, if their behavior is terrible, we shouldn't be allowing devices until those things improve. And so really adhering to 4 or 5 pillars of wellness. So I'll name those again: hygiene, sleep, grades, behavior at home, behavior at school. It does take a village. And so really getting together with like-minded folks is really important. We have a Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group. We have about 465,000 active and engaged parents just like you. So if you're looking for resources, looking to talk to other parents about this topic, we welcome you to that group as well. Some other resources: the Parenting in a Tech World book is a great resource. We also partner with a man named Chris McKenna, who you'll hear from in this series. His website is Protect Young Eyes. He has amazing resources all about software, hardware, blogs, vlogs, tutorials. He has incredible content as well. I've talked a little bit about pornography, and as well, the movie that I talked about, Childhood 2.0, also talks a little bit about students saying that they are receiving it from classmates and others. And so these 2 books, one is elementary and one is secondary, really give you some really great resources behind pornography and how to talk to your kids about it and what happens when they see it. It's not an if, it is a when. Some other great books that I would recommend: I really love Saving Our Sons, Untangled, The Self-Driven Child, all fantastic books about our tweens and teens and children. I'd recommend these reads, even though Untangled says guiding teenage girls. This book is appropriate for anybody who has a daughter aged 5 and up. So all of these books are K through 12. We've talked about a little bit about Childhood 2.0. And then subscribing to our Bark blog, through that Overwhelmed to Empowered QR code, you can find all sorts of resources for your family. So we encourage you to be part of that. We have partnerships with Take It Down, Internet Crimes Against Children, StopBullying.gov. And again, the Bark subscription allows you to really have keen insight into your child, but we also have other companies like the Google Family Link, the Apple Family Share, and Life 360 that are also great tools as well. We'd love for you to use Bark. There's a QR code for you to learn more about it. We have an app and we have a phone. So the app is a subscription of our Bark Premium, and then the phone is a standalone phone that has Bark embedded in it as well. So please feel free to reach out to me. We do all sorts of parent nights that are specifically for parents, where we dive more into these topics more in depth. I also want to just be a resource for you and then remind you to join the Bark ecosystem as well. So thanks for having us here today. We're looking forward to the partnership with the state of Utah, and I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you're watching. Thanks so much for sharing this content with others as well.